Have you ever felt like you just wanted to crawl in bed, pull the covers over your head, and shut the world out after failing your first attempt at the NBCOT exam? I get it. Failure sucks. It literally feels like the entire world is coming, like just crashing down, and you're wondering like if I'll ever pass. But what if I told you that failing the exam is actually more common than you think? What if I told you that you're not alone in this and that this is just a setback that doesn't define you? We're going to talk about why failing your first attempt isn't the end, and it's actually just the beginning of your journey to success. So I want to start with my personal story. And let me take you back to years and years and years ago. I won't say what year, but I got my first score on the NBCOT exam and it was a 431. A 431. I had done everything right. I was crushing it in my OT program. Every single one of my fieldwork placements, they all wanted to hire me. They were begging me to come work for them after I graduated. I was a college cheerleader. I had the energy. I had the drive. I had the mentality. I was always winning. Like literally, life was just so good. I was broke, but I was winning at everything that I did. And then I take the NBCOT exam and bam, I got slapped in the face with a 431 on my first attempt, and I was completely crushed. Like, I literally couldn't believe it. All of my hard work felt like it was just for nothing. And to be honest with you, I used the top resources that my program told me to use, that all the other students were using to prepare for the exam, just like you might be doing right now. And for a moment, I thought it was the end of the road. Maybe I'm not meant to be an OT. Maybe I'll never pass this exam. But here's what I learned. Failure is not the end of your story, my friend. In fact, it's often the beginning and the most important chapter in your success story. And I want to show you how and why you're not alone. So let's get real. It's a lot. It's a lot failing. Even when I think about it and I reflect on it, that moment when I got my score, it's a lot, and you're obviously watching because you didn't pass your exam on a first try. And I know right now you're feeling like crap. Maybe you're thinking, I'm just not good enough. Why is this happening to me? And you're not alone. And I know I keep saying that. I get it. I know it's tough. And just hearing me say you're not alone is probably not enough, is it? It's probably not enough. You need more than just words to really reassure you. You need to see the facts. You need to understand that there are other people in the exact same boat, and it's actually more common than you think. In 2024 alone, listen to this. In 2024 alone, more than 2,800 OTR candidates didn't pass their exam, and over 930 COTA candidates found themselves in the same position. That's over 3,700 students who had to face the same setback as you and I. 3,700 students did not pass the exam their first time. So while you feel like you're alone and you feel like a failure, you're not. You're just one of the thousands of students who didn't pass on their first attempt. And it's not the end. It's literally not the end of your journey. When I didn't pass the first attempt at the NBCOT, yes, I was crushed. But what I did after that is exactly why I only scored a 450. I didn't analyze my performance. I didn't have a plan. I didn't understand where I went wrong. I didn't take time to understand the different resources and what I should be using. I didn't understand where I was missing points. I didn't improve in my content. I didn't have a strategy. I didn't change anything. I literally reread therapy ed from back to front again, and I only scored a 450. I was one question away from failing the exam again. And because of this, I found myself, right, using the same resources, still in a cycle of confusion, still in a cycle of doubt, just not understanding what I was supposed to do differently. And this is literally the first and the most critical step to your success. It is key to improving your score and your confidence. Over the years, I've literally helped thousands of students taking the NBCOT exam by walking them through this exact moment of processing and analyzing their performance, after every single practice exam, after every single attempt, and really getting clear on what we need to do to improve our score. And that's what we're going to spend this entire episode doing, analyzing your performance. I want to help you get so clear, crystal clear, on where you went wrong that you know exactly what to do your next attempt so that you can skyrocket your score and move on with your life and become the best OT possible. So it's not about beating yourself up, right? We've done that. It's over. It's about learning from your mistakes so that you can come back stronger, more focused with a plan, and so that you can pass the exam with confidence. So let's talk about getting clear on where you're missing points. This is the first thing. You must be clear, future OT. You have to understand where you're missing points on this exam. It's critical to you increasing your score and increasing your confidence. If you don't know where you're struggling, right, how can you expect to improve? So the key is, to passing this exam, the key is knowing exactly what went wrong and how to fix it. So I want you to think back. I want you to reflect on the exam. Think about the questions that tripped you up. Was it about a specific topic that made you second guess yourself? For example, maybe you struggled with content on pediatrics. Maybe it was about cerebral palsy. Maybe it was a neurological condition. Maybe it was a very specific intervention strategy. Maybe there were clinical reasoning questions that just left you stumped. I want you to take a moment and I literally want you to write down the types of questions that you were hesitant on, that you took a very long time to answer, and you just felt uncertain. And you know that feeling I'm talking about, where you start reading the question and you see something that says distal radius fracture and you're like, oh God, right? Like I didn't study that, right? Like, or, oh, what is that top down, bottom, which, right? Those questions where there's just that hesitancy, there's that doubt. That's what I want you to focus on. Now that you've reflected, right, and you've thought about all of those questions and the topics that have tripped you up, it's time to take that insight and turn it into action. This is where I want you to make a running list. You have to keep track of every single challenging topic, every single difficult question, every single concept that you don't know. You need to start making a running list so that you know exactly what you need to target in your studies. So what does that look like? One, you reflect on the exam, right? The exam that you took, and you try to think back to everything that was really hard for you. Or maybe you can't remember everything from the exam, but now you're going to start making the running list on your practice exams. So when you're sitting and you're taking a practice exam, I literally want you to have a sheet of paper. And let's just say you're on question 37. And 37 is about extensor tone. And you feel a little hesitant, right? You're like, I think I remember, right? I remember hearing it. It sounds familiar, but you haven't mastered the content. You don't feel really good about extensor tone. And knowing that every time you see a question about extensor tone, you need to look for an answer that's putting them in more flexion. If you can't actively recall that with confidence, extensor tone needs to go on your list, because you need to target that in your studies. Or maybe you see a question about a spinal cord injury and it's level C4. And you're like, okay, I remember C5 is when the client can do this. I know at C8, but C4, right? If you're having a hard time pulling that information to the top of your brain, right, in that moment, that lets me know that you need to work in that area a little bit more. And that's okay, right? Because there's a lot of information on this exam. There's a lot of different terms. There's a lot of different types of questions. There's different, topics. There's a lot, okay? But this list is going to be your roadmap or your study guide. And even every time that you get a question wrong, you need to write it down. What was the term that you didn't understand? What was the type of question? Did it say initial? Did it say, which adaptive strategy? What did that question say that caused you to miss that point or caused you to second guess? And over time, this list is going to give you a really clear picture of your weak spots. There should never be a time that you're taking a practice exam and you don't have your running list next to you. Now, once you've identified the topics that you struggle with, it's time to take action. But here's the key. It's not just about reviewing the content that you're already familiar with, future OT. It's about deepening your understanding of the content, deepening your knowledge, getting more clarity of the different terms and topics that you're going to see on the exam. Your level of knowledge got you the score that you received on your first attempt. And I'm not trying to say that harshly, but literally I got a 431 and that reflected my level of knowledge. So your level of knowledge is the reason why you're in the predicament that you're in. So just imagine if you only review that content again. If you walk into the exam with the same level of knowledge, we may get the same score. And I'm not willing, right? I'm not willing to take a chance on that. So instead of just reviewing your notes, I want you to really engage with the material. I want you to dig deeper into the content, right? That same content that left you feeling unsure or confused, it's time to go deeper. And I don't care if you use books, videos, right? Study guides, whatever it is, whatever resource that you're using that taps into your learning style. Okay, this is the time to take it to the next level. It's worth it. It's really worth it. Your career is worth it. You passing the exam is worth it. You not feeling that same failure is so worth it. Okay, so again, failing your first attempt is more common than you think. Thousands, and I mean 3,700 students have been through this. Just in 2024 alone, 3,700 students didn't pass on their first try, and they came back stronger and smarter. So this is not the end. This is literally just a part of the process. Okay, so let's review. What are you going to do, right? First and foremost, it's critical that you analyze your performance and you get really clear on where you went wrong. This is where the real growth happens. It's not about focusing on the mistakes you made. It's about understanding why you missed those points and gaining clarity, reflecting on your weaknesses, right? Really allowing yourself to change and shift and focus your efforts where it matters most. Next, we talked about keeping that running list of topics, right? When you email me, right, and I get this email every single day from hundreds of students like, Kim, I didn't pass my exam. The first thing I'm going to ask you is, where's your running list? Send me your running list of topics and what are you doing to combat that list? So this list, again, this is your roadmap to success by identifying what you don't know and diving deeper into those areas. You're going to strengthen your mastery and strengthen your confidence. And then we talked about the importance of taking action on that list. It's not just enough to review the content. I have this conversation every day with you guys. You need to deepen your understanding. If you thought you were strong with Rancho levels, I want you to be stronger, right? I want you to feel like there is no question on this exam that can talk to me about Rancho that I will miss. You deepening your understanding, this will prepare you to confidently, right? That's what it's about, confidently passing the exam. And finally, guys, listen, I've been in your shoes before. I know exactly what it feels like to fail the exam. I know it feels like the world is over. I know it feels like you're not going to get that job that, that job was waiting on you. I know it feels like you let your family down. I know it feels like everyone around you is passing the exam. You see the post on Facebook, oh, I passed on my first attempt. Like, screw them. It is okay to be in this position because thousands of students do not pass the exam on the first time, and it literally means nothing. It means nothing. It does not mean that you're not going to be a good OT. It does not mean that you're a horrible person. It does not mean that you're not smart. It doesn't mean anything. This moment, right? This moment of failure is literally just a part of the process. The first time pass rates for the OTR and NBCOT exam is 68%. That's not a lot, guys. That's not a lot. It's a really hard exam. It's a medical board exam. You are a respected medical professional. So we know this exam is hard. So it's not about staying here in this moment. It's about taking your moment, right? Taking your day or your 2 days, okay? Beating yourself up for 2 days. But then it's about coming back stronger, getting the clarity, getting the strategy, shifting your mindset, and taking your preparation to the next level. So you're not alone. I believe in you. Borrow from my belief. And let's go into this next attempt with a clear plan and the confidence to crush it. You got this.